Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Antakoti Vaishnava Ki Jai Brahmacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Deka Hosi Krishna Chaitanya Bhutananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gokupinath Shyamakunda Radha Kundi Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Munamayi Ki Jai Gangamayi Ki Jai Samvita Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to the assembled devotees. For Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 4, process of creation, text 24. Namaha Tasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Papuhu Jnanam Ayam Somya Yat Mukha Amburuhu Asavam Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Apurjnanamayam Somya Yanmukam Buruhasavam Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Apurjnanamayam Somya Yanmukam Buruhasavam Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Apurjnanamayam Somya Yanmukam Buruhasavam
Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Apurjnanamayam Somya Yanmukam Buruhasavam
Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Apurjnanamayam Somya Yanmukam Buruhasvayam Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Apurjnanamayam somya Yanmukam buruhasavam
Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Papurjnanam Mayam Somya Yanmukham Buruhasavam Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Papurjnanamayam Somya Yanmukham Buruhasavam Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Puryanam Ayam Somya Yan Mukham Puru Asavam Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudeva Yan Mukham Buruhasavam
Namastam Tasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Papurjnanamayam Somya Yanmukham Buruhasavam
Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Papurjnanam Ayam Somya Yanmukham Buruhasavam
Namastasma Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Apyoganamayam Somya Yanmukham Bruhasavam
Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Apurjnanamayam somya Yanmukham buruhasavam
Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Papurjnanamayam somya Yanmukham buruhasavam Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Papurjnanamayam somya Yanmukham buruhasavam
Namaste Tasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Apurjnanamayam Somya Yanmukham Buruhasavam Namastasmai Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vedase Apurjnanamayam Somya Yanmukham Buruhasavam
Namaha, my obeisances. Tasmai, unto him. Bhagavate, personality of Godhead. Vasudevaya, unto Vasudev, or his incarnations.
unto Vasudeva for his incarnation.
Vedase, the compiler of the Vedic literatures.
The compiler of the Vedic literature.
Apuhu, drunk.
Drunk.
Jnanam,
Jnana,
knowledge.
knowledge.
Ayam,
Ayam,
this Vedic knowledge.
this Vedic knowledge.
Somya,
Omya,
the devotees,
the devotees,
especially the consorts of Lord Krishna.
especially the consorts of Lord Krishna.
Yet,
Yeah,
from whose?
from whose?
Mukha amburuha, the lotus-like mouth.
The lotus like mouth.
Asavam,
Asavam,
nectar from his mouth.
nectar from his mouth.
Translation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of Vasudeva, who compiled the Vedic scriptures. Pure devotees drink up the nectarine transcendental knowledge dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord. Get the purport.
In pursuance of the specific utterance, Vedhase, or the compiler of the system of transcendental knowledge, Srila Sridhar Swami has commented that the respectful obeisances are offered to Srila Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of Vasudeva. Srila Jiva Goswami has agreed to this.
But Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur
has made a further advance, namely that the nectar from the mouth of Lord Krishna is transferred to his different consorts, and thus they learn the finer arts of music, dance, dressing, decorations, and all such things which are relished by the Lord. Such music, dance, and decorations enjoyed by the Lord are certainly not anything mundane. Because the Lord is addressed in the very beginning as Pada, or transcendental, this transcendental knowledge is unknown to the forgotten conditioned souls. Srila Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of the Lord, thus compiled the Vedic literatures to revive the lost memory of the conditioned souls about their eternal relation with the Lord. One should therefore try to understand the Vedic scriptures, or the nectar transferred by the Lord to his consorts in the conjugal humor, from the lotus-like mouth of Vyasadeva or Shukadeva. By gradual development of transcendental knowledge, one can rise to the stage of the transcendental arts of music and dance displayed by the Lord in his rasa-lila. But without having the Vedic knowledge, one can hardly understand the transcendental nature of the Lord's rasa, dance, and music. The pure devotees of the Lord, however, can equally relish the nectar in the form of the profound philosophical discourses and in the form of kissing by the Lord in the rasa dance, as there is no mundane distinction between the two.
So, yeah, we can first of all distinguish between the word Vyasadeva, compiler of the Vedas, and Vasudeva, which means Krishna was the son of Vasudeva. So, Vasudeva is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his original form, his original feature, as Krishna. And Vyasadeva is he took apparently his birth on this planet in this incarnation as the son of Parashar Muni and Satyavati before her marrying the king, emperor. Vyasadeva, however, is described as an incarnation of Vasudeva, of Krishna. And there are many incarnations, Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam, Adyam Purana Purusham Navayoginam, Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto. Govindamani Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. His unlimited incarnations, they're all one, but they all originate from Krishna. Krishna, the Swayam Bhagavan, Ete Chanksa Kalapumsam, Krishna's two Bhagavan Swayam. The original person, original Lord, from whom unlimited expansions come out. Just, for example, the expansions of the Lord as Manu or the Manvantara incarnation. There are thousands of them in a day of Brahma. And Brahma lives for 100 years, and that's in one universe. There are millions of universes in the material world. And so there are trillions of incarnations of Manu, and there's Lila avatars, and there's Purusha avatars. So many different incarnations of the Lord. But he's the original. And his Lila, topmost Lila, rasa-lila, is being described here to some extent. That is exclusively Krishna's pastime and is heralded and appreciated, especially by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's significant because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So his appreciation of that particular rasa is significant, and the Gaudiya Vaishnavas hold Krishna in the highest esteem. Doesn't mean that there's a difference or hierarchy between the different incarnations. They're all transcendental. But still, that type of rasa or relationship, mellow between the Lord and his conjugal love, is exclusively presented by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, he is addressed by Srila Rupa Goswami, Namo Mahavarnaya, Krishna Prema Pradayate, Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya, Namne Gora Tishena. He's giving the most extraordinary realization of conjugal love, and he's giving it out very freely. Therefore, there's no one more munificent or merciful than Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that incarnation of Krishna. And Vyasadeva appeared at around the same time as Lord Krishna. So they're contemporaries. That makes the pastime even more extraordinary. Krishna's appearance. Not only did Vyasadeva was present, but Krishna's plenary first expansion, Balaram was present. Not only Balaram, but Pradumna and Aniruddha were also there before the four original forms of Vishnu. And so it was a very wonderful appearance Krishna made. He only stayed for 125 years. That's not a long time. It's just a short, brief period, especially for Brahma. But we see, although it was a short period for Brahma, he took a lot of interest in that appearance of Krishna, and therefore his interaction with him is most glorious. Brahma was apparently bewildered to some extent. He couldn't understand how Krishna could appear so like a little child. And so he interacted with him, and ultimately Krishna revealed to him his truth about himself. And Lord Brahma made some beautiful prayers and apologized for his interrupting Krishna's pastimes. Another major point here that Srila Prabhupada is making, and the associates, is that discussion of the pastimes of Krishna with the rasa-lila gopis is transcendental, not material. There's nothing material about it. The non-devotees cannot understand it. Therefore, they think it's material. Even big scholars, when they study the books themselves, they may learn Sanskrit, but they still can't understand Vedeshu Durlabham, Adurlabham Atmabhakto. Because without devotional service, certainly not possible to understand the transcendental nature of Krishna's activities, the Lord's activities. But for the benefit of the scholars, he also expounds Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures, other transcendental philosophical discourses. Of course, Bhagavad Gita is highly acclaimed because it's so succinct, concise, therefore it's called Gita-Upanishad. The transcendental discussions and philosophical points, such as Aham Brahmasmi, living entities are spirit, soul, not this body. There is spiritual world, there's material world, there's different energies, external energy, internal energy, marginal potency, different types of elements for the makeup of the material world: earth, water, fire, air, ether, and all the planets, universes coming from the breathing of Mahavishnu. And the synogia, the topmost transcendental realization, is given in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. But there is some qualification. One should not attempt to understand the rasa-lila, 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, until he's been trained. Just like, to give a mundane example, one should not attempt performing a brain surgery unless he's gone through all the training. He's been tested. He knows philosophically, or shall we say, he understands that how the science of medicine works, how the brain works. And he must have also been personally taught by a very expert brain surgeon, not just by ordinary surgeon, but has to be a specialist. Similarly, to understand rasa-lila, one has to have gone through a lot of training from the expert acharyas and heard it in the line of Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri is considered very important in this civic succession, Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, because it is attributed to him that the conjugal mellow understanding was obtained, and he passed it on. Madhavendra Puri is the Param Guru of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's the spiritual master of Ishwarapuri. Ishwarapuri is the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, but he's God, but he also, as a pastime, takes a spiritual master when he comes. Even Krishna. Actually, yesterday I was speaking about this topic, coincidentally, how Krishna received this knowledge, 64 arts. He and Balaram learned when they were at the Gurukula of Sandipani Muni. And Sandipani Muni taught them all the fine arts of decoration, of making drinks, of arranging flowers, of producing dramas, playing instruments, different types of musical instruments. The list goes on, and they learned all these arts, apparently from Sandipani Muni. How did Sandipani Muni teach Krishna all these arts? Sandipani Muni also heard it from the civic succession. And Krishna is the source of that, because we see that the four Vaishnava Sampradayas, Sri Sampradaya, Brahma Sampradaya, Kumara Sampradaya, and Rudra Sampradaya, all come from Krishna. He's the source. And then there's Brahma and Lakshmi and the Kumaras and Shiva carry on the civic succession. So it may appear that Krishna is being taught something he didn't know, which would be an anomaly. It would be a contradiction. If he's supposed to know everything, he's the original person. How can he learn something from someone else? This is part of his pastimes. So this finer art, these fine arts that the gopis knew, and they knew them the best. For example, in Sri Garga Samhita, we find that there's an elaborate section on music, the art of music. And Narada Muni went there to study under Saraswati, goddess of learning and music. And she's considered extraordinary master. But it's also described there that the real masters are the gopis. They know millions and millions of ragas and raginis. They know all these different beats and tunes and melodies and moods that they imbue the songs with. They sing the songs at certain times with a certain mentality, certain notes are used. It's all an incredible science of music. And the gopis are the experts. We might be surprised about how they became the experts, because Krishna revealed to them through his intimate connection. He gave these arts to them. They were not to be passed on in the normal way, or the way we might be accustomed to reading it in a book, or not like that. These were too transcendental for anything like that. So we can, hearing this, we can become a little maybe interested in attaining such a supreme state, entering into such a mood of that type of devotion with Krishna and his confidential residents of Vrindavan. We should, of course, have that desire, and certainly the followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they do inherit that tendency. And that's very wonderful. But we must prepare ourselves by studying Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, first 9 cantos first, and thoroughly understand them, as far as we're able to, by the mercy of the spiritual master in Krishna. If there are any questions, we could take some.
Hare Krishna. How to know if how to know that one is trained up enough to understand the rasa-lila?
Well, one may not think that he's trained up enough or that he's reached that stage, but it will be presented to him by Krishna and the spiritual master. In other words, comes through the same channel. By the mercy of the spiritual master, we sang Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya. As through the mouth of the Guru, we learn transcendental knowledge, philosophical knowledge, through his teachings, through his transcendental words coming from his mouth. We also can enter into the higher stages. And that will come as revelation and as mercy from Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhai Bhaktilata Bij. As the Bhaktilata Bij takes its position in the transcendental sphere, and then more and more is revealed as one continues in devotional service. By the mercy of Krishna, how do we understand anything? How do we understand we're not the body? Of course, one may say that's a simple logical understanding. Yes, but again, without the spiritual master's input, we see that people can't even understand they're not the body, there's a spirit soul. So in the same way, as Krishna shows his kindness to his devotees through his disciplic sessions, in the same way, Prabhupada warned his disciples not to try to prematurely enter into this transcendental experience of the Braja Gopis, not to imitate, because if one takes it cheaply, then he's liable to be influenced by the Sahaja tendency, and then he won't make spiritual progress. So, by devotional service, when Prabhupada was present, there was a discussion going on, and some devotees were suggesting that Prabhupada indicated that preaching was the business of the very exalted devotees, like the gopis and things. So if one engaged in preaching work, then that might be the natural result. And Prabhupada agreed with that. That was a correct analysis. That because we see Lord Krishna comes as Radharani. Radharani, comes as Lord Chaitanya. And Balaram, Hoilo Nitai. Balaram is also involved in the rasa-lila pastimes in many ways. And all the intricate associates of Lord Chaitanya, many of them were gopis appearing in the lila of Lord Chaitanya to experience the nectar of that rasa, and it's found in preaching. So this spreading Krishna consciousness is a wonderful way to make progress in that also. By Krishna's, Lord Chaitanya's mercy, spiritual master's mercy, these things can be revealed as when the proper time is there. Any other questions over there?
Could you talk a little bit about deity worship before someone? That is one of the first steps, but before someone is necessarily Chaitanya Charitamrita is considered maybe after Srimad Bhagavatam studies. What if someone's says I to worship the deities, shouldn't I be able to read? I need to read about them, and so can you talk a little bit about deity worship without maybe full understanding of all the books?
Well, the worship of the deity is to be conducted in the mood of worshiping Lakshmi Narayana. Deity worship is conducted not as the Vrindavan pastimes, but as Vaikuntha. And so the deities are given crowns and decorated in that mood. So even though Krishna may appear as Radha Krishna, still the deity worship in our temples is conducted along that method. So it is not the same thing that because we're worshiping Radha Krishna deities, we have to be on the level of highest Madhurya Rasa Prema. That's not required. Otherwise, Srila Prabhupada wouldn't have introduced such activities to his fledgling disciples. So the mood in worshiping the deities is as servant to master. And that way, all the services are done with great respect, and one should not become, it's like sometimes devotees would try to dress the deities in a more Vrindavan style. And Prabhupada would caution them to not to try to bring that at this stage. The deity worship, and deity worship is also meant not just for the person worshiping, but for all the other persons who will come to the temple and see the deity, and they should understand that this is God, Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So how do we know, how can we thoroughly understand the scripture?
By the mercy of the spiritual master. And one gets the mercy of the spiritual master through trying to perform devotional service as best he can. But bhakti, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, because you are my friend as well as my devotee, I give you this transcendental knowledge. The transcendental science of yoga is revealed to you. Bhaktosi me sakacheti rahasyam yetaduttamam. The transcendental science mystery is given to one who is a devotee of the Lord. Unloyed devotee, just like a father, he gives all the secrets to his very beloved and trusted son. So if one becomes a trusted disciple, then the proof of that will be he has transcendental knowledge. And he's able to explain it very nicely. Anything else? Other question?
Hare Krishna.
In order for a devotee to enter into these higher leelas that we're talking about,
Have to speak louder.
in order for a devotee to enter into higher Vraja-lila like we're talking about, can he attain that through Vaidhi Bhakti alone, or does he have to come to Raganuga Bhakti platform in order to do that?
I'm not a great expert in this field. However, my understanding is that if he just performs his devotional service as requested by the spiritual master and directed, then Krishna will reveal through the transcendental channels, naturally reveal to him his service. And if that's his service in pleasing Krishna, then it will be revealed to him, just like so many things are revealed, as we've experienced so far. How we just like Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janiyat Yasu Vairagyam Janam Chayarahoitagam. By performing devotional service, naturally renunciation and transcendental knowledge are given. So in the same way, higher transcendental knowledge and higher services will be given, higher association. And that's an arrangement by Krishna. And as far as practicing, as one goes on in devotional service, he becomes adept. And by the grace of Guru and Krishna, he's allowed to understand more and enter into more intimate, confidential pastimes. So one should be patient. One shouldn't try to rush and force himself into that situation. He should be satisfied with the service he's been given. Even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was leaving Jagannath Puri, some of his very intimate devotees wanted to go with him. But they were doing service for the deity. And so Lord Chaitanya declined to take them. He said, no, you stay here and continue with your service. So by continuing with that service, whatever it may be, one shouldn't think that he'll be neglected and he'll be left in the lower levels of bhakti and he'll never get to the higher levels. Only by pleasing the spiritual master in the disciplic session will one be able to enter. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki